They believed their plan had reached its final triumph. Seth Rollins, Brock Lesnar, and the faction of mercenary wrestlers who had thrown their integrity away for corporate rewards were convinced that their elaborate scheme had succeeded. In their minds, Roman Reigns was permanently erased, the bloodline legacy had been extinguished, and the entire structure of WWE had been reshaped under their control. In the ring they stood tall, arms raised, confident that they had orchestrated a flawless coup. But what occurred on Monday Night Raw would shake the very foundation of professional wrestling and leave fans, performers, and executives questioning everything they thought they understood about loyalty, revenge, and justice. The night became one of those rare moments in history when fiction, spectacle, and shocking reality bled together into something unforgettable. Just when Seth Rollins and his allies were basking in what they thought was an unassailable victory, the impossible happened. CM Punk, long banished from WWE, and AJ Lee, equally absent from the squared circle for years, drove directly into the arena in a hijacked ambulance. From that vehicle emerged the figure that everyone believed had been silenced forever. Roman Reigns, battered, scarred, and nearly destroyed, returned from what could only be described as a living death. What he did next to Rollins, Lesnar, and the corporate-backed conspirators was not random violence, but deliberate, merciless retribution executed with the precision of someone who had spent every waking moment of his captivity plotting the downfall of those who betrayed him. The atmosphere changed permanently at 11:23 p.m. Seth Rollins had just begun to deliver a smug victory address, proclaiming himself the Vision who had eradicated the last obstacle standing between him and complete dominance of the company. He was flanked by Brock Lesnar and a collection of wrestlers who had sold their dignity for contract guarantees and fabricated main event pushes. It was a grotesque spectacle, a coalition of performers turned mercenaries, applauding the supposed death of the very man who had once carried the company on his shoulders. The arena echoed with the kind of uneasy silence that often follows forced celebrations, until the piercing wail of ambulance sirens shattered the charade. At first, the audience, and even some members in the ring, assumed this was yet another scripted medical angle. WWE had used ambulances in countless storylines before, and the crowd expected a routine setup for drama. But there was something different about this sound, a lingering edge that made the air feel heavier. When the ambulance pulled into view, eyewitnesses later confessed that they assumed it was part of the spectacle until the driver stepped into the light. CM Punk, the exiled superstar who had walked away from the business years ago after being blacklisted, was behind the wheel. Fans screamed in disbelief, some in joy, others in shock. This was not an expected cameo or a carefully managed return. Punk looked like a man driven by righteous fury, as though he had broken every law and defied every warning to ensure that justice would finally be served. From the passenger seat emerged AJ Lee, her face marked with grim determination, the expression of someone who had uncovered atrocities so severe that she could not stand idly by. To those watching, she did not look like a performer making a surprise return. She looked like someone carrying the weight of dark secrets that demanded immediate exposure, no matter the personal consequences. What they revealed when they opened the back doors of the ambulance stunned the world. Roman Reigns appeared, but not as the indestructible champion people remembered. He looked like a victim of war. His body was gaunt, covered in scars, with medical tubes and equipment attached to him in ways that seemed designed not to heal but to restrain. The sight was horrifying. Fans gasped, some screamed, and even a few of the wrestlers in the ring instinctively stepped back. This was no theatrical injury angle. This was evidence of systematic torture. CM Punk wasted no time explaining what they had discovered. Speaking into a microphone, his voice shook with fury as he revealed that Roman had not been receiving care for legitimate injuries. Instead, he had been held in a medically induced coma for 3 months, not to aid his recovery but to silence him, to keep him from testifying about the attempt on his life. AJ Lee, standing beside Roman with medical instruments still in her hands, added with sharp control that the so-called treatment was in fact a cover-up. Roman had been drugged, manipulated, and kept weak to erase his testimony from history. The revelation turned the arena upside down. Suddenly, The supposed victory celebration looked less like triumph and more like a gathering of criminals caught red-handed. Roman, leaning on Punk and AJ for support, stepped forward into the spotlight. His voice carried through the arena with a weight that could only belong to someone who had walked through death itself. "Did you really think you could kill me and get away with it?" he demanded, the words landing like thunderbolts. "Did you honestly believe that drugs, torture, and cover-ups could erase Roman Reigns?" The power of his voice sent shivers across the crowd and visible fear through Seth's camp. Roman explained in chilling detail that he remembered everything: the injections, the conversations about keeping him unconscious, the forged documents meant to strip him of his career. Despite their pharmaceutical warfare, his mind had survived, cataloging every crime committed against him. His words became both accusation and evidence, every syllable confirming that he had endured months of torment with awareness intact. Then Roman turned his attention directly to Brock Lesnar, his former rival. With cold intensity, he accused him of taking corporate money in exchange for participating in his torture. The arena gasped. Brock, usually the embodiment of confidence, looked shaken for the first time in years. Roman's exposure of his complicity stripped away the beast incarnate's aura of indifference. But Roman was far from finished. He revealed that many of the wrestlers in the ring, perhaps even half the roster, had taken payouts, bonuses, and guaranteed bookings in exchange for either participating in or remaining silent about the plot to eliminate him. The implication was staggering. The conspiracy wasn't just a handful of villains, but a systemic rot running through the entire organization. Roman's words were not empty threats. CM Punk and AJ Lee had collected evidence during their infiltration: recordings of meetings, audio and video clips of executives and wrestlers openly discussing methods of assassination disguised as medical treatment. Roman announced that Triple H had personally approved the facility where he was imprisoned, Stephanie McMahon had signed off on financial authorizations, and Nick Khan had coordinated with outside professionals to ensure his silence. The plot was not rogue, it was institutional, sanctioned at the highest levels of the company. AJ confirmed that federal prosecutors already had the evidence. This was no longer just a storyline, but an unfolding criminal case with implications that could dismantle the corporate structure of WWE itself. Still, Roman made it clear that legal justice alone would not be enough. He listed the crimes again, not to remind himself, but to prepare the conspirators for the reckoning to come. They had drugged him, lied to his